Hey, True Believers. Chris Mack coming at you today with Batman 232. Now, for those of you that don't know, this is the first appearance of Ra's al Ghul. And this issue right here, I wish this wasn't original. But yeah, good luck on that one, because this is a pricey book. But local comic shops have been getting a lot of these reprints from Marvel and DC. And then some of them, like there's the dollar comics and whatnot, and those are fun for rereads. I like these because, yeah, they're reprints, but they keep all the original ads, so it actually feels like you're reading the original comic book. Now, for those of you that aren't longtime comic book readers, this issue 232, and then the second one that I want to try to find, and it's equally just as pricey, is issue 244. These two issues, written by Denny O'Neil, were the ones that inspired the Batman the Animated Series, the Demon Quest Part 1 and 2. Part 1 is 232, and Part 2 was 244. And I love how Denny O'Neil and Len Wein, who are the ones that wrote those episodes, made it seem like a seamless two-parter. And that was great, because it's like the acolytes of the comics series, because Len Wein was the creator of Swamp Thing and Wolverine. Denny O'Neil and Neal Adams were the ones that kind of did the definitive era of Batman here. So it's just very, very awesome. So if you guys don't remember, go check out the animated series. For those of you that have the original box sets, I believe it's in the third box set on the first disc, and you'll find it there. But anyway, just like with the cartoon, here in the comic, it shows Robin is in college. I think this here, it says Hudson University, as where the cartoon says Gotham University. And he's crawling back into his dorm room after a night of patrol. And then all of a sudden, out of the dark, there's two guns that are drawn. And just boom, right off the bat, there are stakes. Because here in the book, you don't know if Robin's been shot or whatnot, as we're in the cartoon. Because even though Batman the Animated Series was a serious take, it was still a kid's show, so they had to show that it was a tranquilizer. Now, this book initially came out in June of 1971, and you're just like, whoo, doggy. And then again, just like the cartoon, Alfred delivers a message to Bruce, as we're here. And the cartoon is the Batcave. Here they're in this the penthouse that Bruce has in town. And then this is where we see, "Dear Batman, we have Robin. Save him if you can." So I love how the book just starts out, all of a sudden you're just like, whoa, wait a minute, what's going on? And how it was given to Alfred via messenger. So we know all that something is afoot, right? Now check out the way how O'Neil wrote this. It's so great. "The dread Batman is no stranger to peril, for he has pitted his strength, courage, and intelligence against the deadliest of foes, the most ingenious of criminals. Yet no quest has ever taken him closer to death than his search for the daughter of the demon." Love that. Seamless. Catches your attention. You get the word balloons, and then boom, you get the title of the book. And here, story by Denny O'Neil. Art by Neal Adams and Dick Giordano. Edited by Julius Schwartz. It's awesome. Now, for those that have read comic books longer than I have, if you guys can give me some knowledge here, because this is issue 232, this is the 70s. Bruce is currently living in the penthouse in, Gotham proper, and, Bruce says in order to analyze the photo, he has to use the Batcave computer. So he comes back to the Wayne estate, and he goes, "Seeing my ancestral home so dark, as closed to the vault, gives me a nasty chill. Perhaps Dick and I should never have left the old place. But times change, and people must change with them. The original concealed entrance to the cave still works perfectly. I built it to last. As I built everything, beginning with the best parts available and ending with plenty of sweat." Now, before we go any further, for those of you, do you know what issue it was that they moved out of the Batcave and why? Because I have no idea. Because trying to find these older Batman comics, I eventually would like to try to go back. But some of these, I hit a price tag and I'm just like, no no, I don't want that issue right now. That's why I'm glad I have a relatively nice reprint here. So, I'll take it where I can, at least to get the story. Now, with that said, let me know down in the comments what I'm missing. But check this out. The cave, the mansion are supposed to be empty. Then all of a sudden we get an off-camera or off-panel voiceover saying, "Welcome home, Bruce Wayne. Or shall I address you as the Batman?" Now what I like is instead of just automatically, the next page we see silhouette. And Bruce says, "Who are you? How'd you get in?" Then, in full color, in a nice little spread here done by Adams and the art team, we then see Raz or Raish, however you guys want to pronounce it, Al Ghul. And that's just nice, just the way he's standing there, commanding power with Ubu. Great stuff. And just like in the cartoon, Raz talks about how he got a similar photo talking about how his daughter has been abducted by the same people who have his ward. Now, it's funny, and we'll get into this, is how both of these people are kidnapped simultaneously. And how all of a sudden Ra's al Ghul deduces who Batman is. And so he kind of goes in, Ra's al Ghul goes into talking about how, he's like, "Well, how'd you figure out my identity?" And he says, I just did deduction about, Batman would need large sums of money, who would be able to have that type of resources, and they narrowed it down to Bruce Wayne. Now, Bruce goes through his steps as a detective, impresses the Ra's al Ghul, and they go to leave. Batman tries to leave the cave first, and Nubu goes, "Infidel! My Lord Al Ghul leaves the chamber first." Okay, friend, you've made your point. Now, what I like compared to the animated series is how Bruce, in that series, he goes, "Okay, that's strike one." So I kind of like how they updated it and made it fresh for modern. So that's really cool. And then we get on the plane, and Ra's is asking why Bruce is not showing any emotion. And Batman's talking about how my emotions, I don't have time for those. I trained myself to gain control, to focus on the job. And he goes into his whole backstory about training his body to peak physical condition, his mind to peak physical condition to become who he is, and how he thought he was the only one that had that pain, through the years and became Batman. But then he saw the same thing, within Dick. And he saw that, right here, he goes, "Leaving a small frightened boy to mourn. I chilled with realization that mine was not an isolated agony, nor even unique." And he goes, "I looked at the weeping lad and saw myself. I put a hand on his shoulder, and in that second, an understanding was forged between us, and a common purpose." So I like how they immediately show how these two became a bond. Now, we all know that at this point, in modern times, Ra's al Ghul's organization is the League of Shadows. But here, when they're going to Calcutta, they're talking about the Brotherhood of the Demons, because, Ra's al Ghul is the demon head. And so it's really interesting that I don't think O'Neill at this point knew what to call Ra's al Ghul's organization, so they're calling it the Brotherhood of the Demon. So I'd like to know what issue it was where they actually called it the League of Shadows. And just like in the cartoon, we go to Calcutta, Bruce gets into a big fight, but, in the show they had to make it more cinematic, as where they couldn't do it where it was all done in an alleyway. So again, Ra's goes first. He goes, "Once more, I warn you, infidel. The master goes first." And in the cartoon, Bruce goes, "Okay, that's strike two." So that's good stuff. So anyway, they get the information they need that leads them to the next part of where this is supposed to lead them to Robin and Talia. But check this out. Just like in the show, Batman goes first. Ra's and Ubu and Shadow. And what I like on this panel is we just see a couple of whiskers and an eye, and Bruce says, "Quiet, isn't it? Maybe too quiet." And then just boom, off panel, Neal Adams, the way he just drew this tiger, or it's a what is it? Suddenly it's I don't know what that's supposed to be. That's a leopard. There it is. I had to go down a couple panels. Blah, not enough coffee. But I like the way how the artwork here, he's got this look of surprise. There's a leap. And the fighting is intense. I don't want to spoil it because I want y'all to get a copy of this reprint. But afterwards, Bruce's like, the only thing in this room is the map. Why is there a leopard only protecting this room for a map? And so he says it's talking about how it's going through the Himalayan mountains. And so, well, that's our next goal. And then right here again, I love how O'Neal in his dialogue just seething with sarcasm. Oh, least I forget. After you. So just great stuff there. And then we get this beautiful splash page of them in the Himalayas. Great work there. That is old school. That is Neal Adams to a T. And then I just love how the backup, not the backup, I'm sorry, that's the wrong terminology, but the fellow art team, just, you know, the inks and the colors just really brings it all together. Same thing with the letter. I know a lot of letters don't get a whole lot of, credit. But just think about this. You get this beautiful page and you have to think, okay, well, how can I put the words here where it's not going to impede? You know, where it's not going to go out into the bleed lines, which is, you know, comes out this way and whatnot. And you don't want it to fall into the gutters. So they have to think about composition, about where they're going to put the word balloons. Same thing with the inner dialogues here, or the third person narration. And again, you don't want to put it here because that black is going to bleed. You don't want to use white. Same thing here. So just tag it here in the grain with that black and it's still legible. So props to be able to do the splash page and still add the words. Great stuff. And so just like in the cartoon, oh well, except in the cartoon, Batman parachutes out of a helicopter. That is not the case as we just saw. But we get this really great paneling again, with this nice Z paneling action of Batman trying to escape this sniper and how he dispatches him instantly because, you know, he's the Batman. And you can tell he's starting to deduce what's going on. Like, for example, here, you know, Batman's by himself and he goes, a helicopter. Naturally, it figures there'd be a chopper in the area, and I can guess who the passengers are. And then he says the Batman acts as though he's cracked the case. Now, you know, Batman enters the temple, sees Robin there. I do like how in the animated series when they did this, you know, Batman goes down this long, ominous corridor. Everything's silhouetted in black and Robin's at the end of it. I thought that was a great way to build suspense, as where this is just kind of like, oh, hi, Robin. Good to see you, friend. But, you know, this was the older days, so it is what it is. Now, the way Batman deduces this is really interesting, and I don't want to give that part away about who the Demon Head's supposed to be right off the bat. It's really, really kind of cool how Denny O'Neil and all them did this. But what I do want to talk about is Batman's talking about how, you know, I've been halfway across the globe. I've bruised my knuckles on several chins. I've been attacked by a leopard. I don't have time for games. So he goes, are you ready, chum? Talking to Robin. And now, I love the paneling, and I love the way how O'Neil adds the words. Now, check this out. You see them just go to town on these, demon members. Witness it. Fury held in rigid check until now explodes. These are no brutal beings. There's a part of their hearts that despise violence. Now look at the way Robin grabs this guy here. Same thing with Batman doing this uppercut. So just notice that and this as we go further into the paneling. See how they set it up here? He grabs him into a barrel roll, flips him, does his uppercut, turns around, smacks him. But they are a product of their era, even as you are. The horrors of 3 wars and deep personal tragedy have shaped them. So violence lives within them. And given the occasion, it can become an icy, remorseless vengeance. So, whew, that is some good stuff right there, man. So just like in the cartoon here at the end towards the end of the issue, we start to, Batman asks, I figured out everything about what you wanted except why. And as you can see here, here's Ra's standing with Talia. Now, I don't want to give away the ending of the book because it's a little bit different than the cartoon. But nonetheless, this is classic art, classic storytelling at its finest. I know a lot of people say that this book is underwhelming the way it ends, but it builds up for the next issue. So next time I go to the comic shop, which I don't want to wear a mask because it's so hot, and I'd just rather wait until everything clears up to even want to leave the house, if you guys know what I'm talking about at the time of this recording. But I don't know. Again, people say it's underwhelming. I think, in my personal opinion, it ends perfectly because you get a self-contained story. But as the book ends, it just raises the stakes saying, oh, wow, so here's a 180, and now I need to see what's going to happen on the next issue, which is what you want from a storyteller. And again, from a business model, you also want people to get excited about the next issue as well. Like, oh, well, what's going to happen to our dynamic duo? Stay tuned. Next bat time, next bat channel. You see what I mean? So just overall, great work. And just like, I've talked about with different Batman groups on Facebook, I personally feel like during the 70s, the Denny O'Neil and Neal Adams era is definitely a definitive time for Batman. A lot of these stories were translated into the animated series, as we just went over, and that's just really great stuff. Amazing book. Love this cover, how Ra's al Ghul just looks bigger than life. And they kind of show you what the stakes are about and how Batman's kind of tied into the whole business of this. So if you guys have enjoyed this comic book, please support your local comic shop. If you have the scratch, as not many people say the scratch anymore, shows my age, then definitely pull the trigger and get an original copy of this because it's just going to keep skyrocketing. But if you're like me and you're more just kind of like, oh, I'm going to be a collector on a budget, they do have reprints. I don't know if there's still copies, but check it out. If not, see if they have this reprint online. And for $4, you are getting a quality read. Definitely worth it. And if you've enjoyed this review, please take a moment to hit like, share, and subscribe. Helps the club channel more than you could possibly know. And if you won't mind hitting that fancy little battering bell next to subscribe, then you guys will get notified when we upload new content. You can come to the channel. And we love to hear your thoughts and feedback down in the comments below and just have a dialogue with y'all, or on our social media pages, which I'll make sure to leave the links down in the description below. So with all that said, thank you so much for stopping by. I hope you all continue to have an absolutely amazing day reading, and happy hunting, true believers.